Hi, everyone, and welcome back. This is Alexander Lim, and welcome to Author Story. Our featured book for this episode, which you can check out by clicking on the Amazon link in the video description below, is Candma Goes to Heaven. The author, Monica Burch, teaches STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, mathematics. She teaches those subjects to kids from kindergarten to grade 8, and she has written more books than she has published. Two of these have actually previously been covered in Author Story, which are Speedy Strength and Inside Robotics. So, Monica, welcome back to Author Story. It's great to have you with us again.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Cool. So, how have you been, Monica? I mean, it's been 3 years since you were last in Author Story. It's 2016. What's been up with you since then?
Well, a couple of things. I've been writing more technical books than I have been writing books like Candma Goes to Heaven. I
Okay.
started. I've been doing a lot of more workshops with kids working with robotics, which I love.
Right.
But I also love the other part too. So I decided to put some time into these books I had in my head and
Right.
actually try to write them and get them published.
Right. Okay. And how are your kids? I mean, 3 years is a long time where kids are growing up are concerned.
Well, I have two boys. I shouldn't say boys now. I should say young men.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
my first oldest son is 23. He didn't just graduate. He graduated from Seton Hall with a degree in diplomacy, and he's
All
now
right.
working at Blairstown, Princeton, where he's a program manager. Where he works with kids, so he likes
Okay.
that.
Okay.
My
Okay.
youngest son,
Yeah.
he actually graduated, and he's going to Stevens Institute, and he's majoring in engineering. So
Oh, nice. Nice. So STEM, huh? Engineering. Okay. Yeah. So he takes after his mom, don't he?
yes, so I am now empty nester, what you
Oh,
call
okay.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess 3 years is things do happen in 3 years' time.
Yeah, goes by fast.
Yeah, pretty fast. Okay. Now, on to the book. Now, Canva Goes to Heaven. I mean, this covers a topic which quite a few adults find difficult to speak about, and even a few adults find impossible to speak to kids about. Not to pry into any sensitive subjects, but what was your inspiration for this book? Was it like based on personal experience?
Actually, it was.
It was.
What
Okay.
happened is, and my son is 23 now,
Yes, yes.
but when he was two,
Mhm.
his um, his grandmother, or my husband's mother, passed away, and I
Okay.
actually wrote the book, the first draft of my book then.
I see.
Um, so throughout, my kids growing up, we've had people to, pass away, and things happen, tragedy happened, and I wanted to find some way of making it, introducing the subject.
All
So I
right.
used that book, but I never did anything with it. I talked about the story, and
Mhm,
that was it.
mhm,
So I just, I had a, I work with kids all the time, and
mhm.
I had a kid in a class of mine a couple of years ago
All right.
whose mother passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, it'd been nice if I had the book published, but it
Okay.
wasn't. And I continued on. And then last year, the same thing happened to another a little girl who was,
Mhm.
it was just, who just had, just a bright little girl who
Right.
just was so excited about life. And she came into class one time and she was so upset. She just took all the little things we were building, the blocks we were building, and just poured them out. And I asked her what had happened, and she said,
Right.
"Well, her mother was dead, and she was
Ouch.
mad."
Okay. Okay. Right.
So then I decided I'm gonna publish this book. I'm gonna finish this book up. I thought it was excellent, excellent. And I'll tell you, this book is years in. I've rewritten this book several times,
Right. Right.
and every time I looked for an illustrator, it was so hard.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
think I've had it illustrated like four times, and I never
Wow.
found the right illustrator. But I found
Okay.
this one great illustrator, and she just did such excellent pictures. It's just such a great. I just love the pictures. I have to say, the story I like, but the pictures I
Uh-huh.
really, really love because she did such an excellent job.
Right. Okay. And I mean, you did mention that. Okay. First off, I'd just like to acknowledge it's raining here. So if you hear any background noise, yeah, that's the rain falling on the roof. Okay. So with regard to the illustrator, I mean, you said you went through four different illustrators. Did you have any? What did you have in mind? What did you have in mind when you were looking for an illustrator?
Um, I knew what I was looking for. For example, what I want to do with my characters, it is an African American family.
Mhm.
I'm African American, so I wanted the book to represent the family that I have,
All right.
um, and I had the idea of how each person looked,
Mhm.
and so I sent pictures to the illustrator of what I wanted this person to look like and how I wanted it to change,
Mhm.
and everyone it was just hard. It was very,
Mhm.
very hard. I got all type of illustrations, but none actually made the character. Candma was a
Mm.
very important character, and I wanted her just right, and I could not get the picture I had in my mind.
All right. All right.
And it's hard too, because I never met any of my illustrators. I've always done work via I met them online, or
Right.
I
Right.
called them and I
Right.
sent
Right.
them pictures and I talked to them. And this is the same person with Emily, who's actually based in Canada.
Mhm. Mhm.
Same thing. I sent her some pictures. I talked to her. I wrote down what I was looking for, what I wanted,
Mhm.
and she was able to recreate. And the first thing she did was the page, my cover page,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that was I knew she was the one. Just that one page, she did such an excellent job. And
Wow.
and what she did, she drew each, but she drew each one. She drew each one, and then she colored it in.
Uh huh.
So just that way made me feel comfortable, and she did such a great job that I just knew this was the person, and this was the time for me to publish the book. Everything came together for this
Right.
book, and now it's just getting it out there for other people to see. And it is a tough subject, and that's one of the reasons too that I never really worked to publish it
All
either,
right.
because it's a tough subject.
Mhm. All right. So, just staying a little bit with Emily. Emily Zeroth, I believe her name is. I mean,
Yes.
I've been checking out her work, and she's been illustrating children's books since 2012. How do you come across her? I mean, did you come across like doing research and stuff like that?
Well, see, that's a good good question. I use Upwork. There's
Okay.
some great Upwork. Are you familiar with that site?
Yes, I am.
Uh, so I just put it out there, and I had several illustrators to come back, and then but what
Mm.
when they come back, they point you to their work, and you look through their work, and then you can give them a sample to illustrate, and they illustrate a sample for you, and that can tell you too if this is the person. And I did all that. It took a while to find, because they have so many good illustrators out there. Have to say it's a very good site. I like that one.
Mhm.
Actually, I like that site. I use it a lot, and I use Fiverr a lot
Mhm.
too. But that was where I found her, and she's been doing a lot of my work. I've actually made a coloring book now,
Mhm.
based on this, that I'm going to do as a giveaway on my site,
Okay.
and she's
Okay.
done that for me.
All right. Okay.
And
Cool.
I'm doing another thing with Cam on Alex, where they go to church, and
Oh,
I'm
okay.
I'm doing something. So I'm doing a lot more with it, and it's just great having her there, because she's in her turnaround time. She does
Uh-huh.
such an excellent job, and she gets the work done.
Mhm. Right. Cool. Fantastic. Okay, so I like, yeah. Okay, so I'd like to get a little bit in the on the subject matter and essentially your experience, um, with your 2-year-old son when his grandmother died. The way you handled it back then, was it kind of like the way that it was handled in the book?
Yes,
Okay.
it was very similar to that.
Okay.
Since then, I have changed up. It depends on, to me, the age of a kid,
All right.
what you
Right.
want, how you approach it.
Right.
But each time, both my husband and I talk to the kids and let them know how we feel too,
Hmm.
because every tragedy affects everyone, not just the
Right.
child. And you want them to
Right.
know that if you're sad or you're upset,
Right.
um, that it's okay to be that way, because I'm upset too. So that's one
Right.
of the things we did. So, but that is how we approached it, by both talking to them. Some of the scenery is different,
Mm-hmm.
but that's actually what we did.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So, in addition to your own experience, did you do any research with other people, or even with kids or their parents, on how they related to the loss of a loved one? Just to make sure you got it just right for the story.
I did. I actually, when I first wrote the book, I actually did some research. I did some online research,
Hmm.
and I talked to some friends, and that's when I did my most of my research. But then my book didn't. Then I didn't go anywhere with it. I had done
Hmm.
most research then, and then as the years went by, I would tweak it,
Hmm.
depending on, because by then my sons, we've lost a lot because
Right,
it's my
right.
my mother's family, and my father's family, and my husband's mother and father's family. So those, it's that generation, that happens, and you know what I mean. It's that generation where all that happens. And my kids grew up with a lot of these people in their lives. They're, the great aunts, the great uncles,
Hmm.
um, and it was hard for them. So I had that experience, and it's been a lot if you think
Hmm.
about it, just in living, because I started this when, like, my son is 23 now, and I
Right.
started when he was 2. So I had a long
Uh,
time and
yeah.
a lot of experience just between those years.
And in the course of doing the research, or in the course of the gestation of the book, what are some of the things that most surprised you about the process, or about the subject?
I think what surprised me when I first did my research is the fact that when parents talk to kids parents had a hard parents had a hard time talking to their kids about death and about someone dying.
Right.
And sometimes um, the kids would not even attend a funeral of a grandparent, or they would kind of block you know, that whole thing.
Uh-huh.
So one of the things we felt that, we want our kids to know what was happening, and
Right.
this was part of life. And
Right.
so it was hard because, our kids were young as their grandparents passed away,
Yeah.
and as they got older, the aunts and uncles, great aunts and uncles did.
Right.
So but I find that it's hard for parents to talk about it. It's hard for them to talk about their feelings
Hmm.
too when it happens. So that's what I wanted to make sure that was all in the book,
Hmm.
just making sure the kid sees what's going on, understanding it, and understanding that you're sad, because sometimes as parents we don't want to do that. We want to be strong. We want to, we don't want to let them know that we're sad too, we're upset too about
Right.
this.
Right. Right.
But it is a hard subject. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a hard subject. And it was a hard book too, because of the fact that it's not a book that and sometimes I wonder about the book, because of, like, I I put it out there, and I'm doing some marketing now with the book, and
Hmm.
I'm trying to do some places where I go and read and talk about the book.
Right. Right.
And that is it's interesting, because you can't it's not a book that you take to kids and read, I don't think.
All right. All
And
right.
this has always been my problem.
Hmm.
It's something I think you talk to parents about.
Hmm.
So a book that they can introduce death, or introduce tragedy to
Hmm.
their child, and how to handle it, and how they would handle it. And also, I wanted to make sure in the book too is that at the end of the book you show the family has increased because they had another kid. And I really don't explain it much in the book. I
Hmm.
just show a picture of another child in the book,
Hmm.
because and I have pictures of the grandmother in the background,
Hmm.
and they talk about something that the grandmother did with the kid.
All
But I
right.
wanted them to see that is that even though somebody passes away,
Hmm.
you still keep that person with you.
Hmm.
So that's what's all in the book, and that's all I try. I try to put a lot in those pages.
Right, right. And I must say, I mean, the approach definitely. When I was thinking about this, I was thinking, gosh, how is she gonna approach the kids? I mean, but from what you tell me, it's really a matter of approaching the parents first, and then having them speak to the kids about the book.
Yes, knowing it's a reference out there for some way to introduce a tragedy or death in a family. It's
Yes.
that's, I think, the goal of the book.
Hmm.
It's having that book out there, or just to talk about life and death, or somehow introducing the subject, and then talking to your child about what's going to happen in your family.
Mm.
Um, so that's what one of the reasons the book's there. I have the book there for that introduction, that start, just to start the talk.
Hmm. Right, right. Okay. Okay, so I mean, you've had 2 decades worth of thinking about this, of working with this. In your opinion, what would be more advantageous for the child in the long run? I mean, having this idea of death, not attending the funeral and all that stuff, having the idea of death something like pushed aside, or I mean pushed aside but hidden away or something like that, or having them, become conscious of the reality of it.
That's one of the reasons I wrote the book too, because I think they should be. And like I said, it's a hard thing, and I can't tell anybody how they should introduce it to their kids if they want to do it the other way. Because I'm from Alabama, and I
Mm-hmm.
can tell people, we don't say death, we say pass away. You know,
Mm, right,
hit the road. So
right,
we had all these different ways of saying it that was supposed to be lighter than
right,
saying, your grandmother died.
right,
You
right,
say your grandmother passed away, well, the kid would say,
right,
what do you mean passed away?
right, right,
So,
right.
and I still use that terminology because it's inbred in me. But
Okay.
that's some of the ways that we, as I think the human race, we address it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but I think it's better to talk to your child about it,
Mm-hmm.
even to let them know that this kid faced this, even though they may not even. Sometimes it you might not even have this in your sphere of what might happen in your family,
All right,
and you wonder, should I buy the book and read it to my kid? And I think you should, because
all
this is
right.
something that happened to this boy,
Mm-hmm.
and this is how this family handled it.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything ever happens, your child understands, about it, and this kind of thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people are scared because one of the reasons when a child might read it will think, well, my grandmother's going to die, and
All
you don't
right,
want them to start thinking that.
right,
But
right, right.
um, eventually we all will, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is, so
It's inevitable. Yes.
yes. Yes. So what I thought about it is that why I put it in a sometimes because I read some books
Mm-hmm.
that where they have it. It's not a family. They might have a pet, or they
Mm-hmm.
might have. Um, I think I read one with some dinosaurs, and one of the
Yeah.
different. They put in different contexts, and I put it
Right,
in the family.
right,
I
right.
wanted it as realistic as possible, and that's
Mhm.
what I did.
All right. Okay.
So I think that is something that you should actually, discuss. It's one of those, there's so many things you have to discuss with kids and
Mm.
teach them as they grow. And this is just one of the many things. And all of them are not easy. And this is
Mm-hmm.
just one of those things that are not
All right.
easy.
Okay. All right. So, Monica, for the benefit of those parents who are listening in right now, or who would be listening to this podcast, how would you say, well, how would you recommend them to approach this topic of someone close in the family with dying with a kid? How do they approach it with a kid? What's your opinion on that?
Well, that's one of the things I'm actually putting on my website too. Is I
Mm,
wanted 5 ways to actually introduce or talk about it. And first thing I always say is you want to get someplace comfortable that for the family. You want to meet in a
mm,
room where you always meet in a room with your kids, and
mm.
talk about the person first.
All right.
Something good that just to set that mindset for your child of maybe a grandparent, something they did with a grandparent, because sometimes you have people pass away that the kids aren't as close with, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have them where they are close with, but you
All
set
right.
that mindset, and then you tell the child what happened,
All right.
and then you also make sure you let them know how you feel about it too,
Uh-huh.
because they're going to be upset, but
Uh-huh.
you want
Uh-huh.
them to know you're upset too. So it's okay to be upset. It's
Right.
okay to
Right.
be upset, because we all are in this family. This is somebody who brought a lot to our family, somebody we
Mm-hmm.
loved and we cared about,
Yes.
and somebody who kind of who anchored us at in some point. And
Mm-hmm.
we want your child to make sure that it's okay to be upset about it.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. All right. So let all right. You probably mentioned this already, but let me switch a little bit sides. Let's say you came across a kid, a child, who's
Hmm.
dealing with the loss of someone close to them in their life, and you had only enough time to tell this child one thing about, essentially how to manage it or about their loss. What would be that one thing you tell that child?
That it's okay to be upset,
Mm-hmm.
and that the person who passed away loved them and
Mm-hmm.
cared about them, and it's okay for them to always remember that.
Okay. You know, I have to ask, was this the same kind of approach you used back when your son's grandmother died?
Yes.
It was.
Yes.
Okay, so it was always there then.
It was always there. And we just, my boys just had, they're young men now. I shouldn't say
Hmm.
boys, but we just had a very close friend of ours pass away last year, and it
Hmm.
was very hard for us as a family because
Right.
my boys grew up with this person,
Hmm.
and this was, person who, the boys are now young men, but
Right.
this person was in their life since they were babies, and
Right. Right.
it was a very, and it was unexpected, and it's something that happened, and
Hmm.
it was devastating to us as a family because
Hmm.
we did Christmas with this person, we did vacations with this person. It was
Hmm.
just this person, and she was a great friend of my boys. When my husband and I would go out on a date, the boys would go out with her when they were
Okay.
young,
All
and
right.
they would say the same thing. So it was the same situation, even as adults, where you want it's something that you have to talk about,
Hmm.
and you want to still remember the person.
Hmm.
Sometimes I think we like to stop that memory because it's hard for us to remember a person who has
Right.
passed
Right.
away.
Right.
But I think for your kids, it's easier for you to keep that memory alive because they are going to. So if they may feel bad if you're hiding it or you're not talking about the person anymore in their life, and they still feel that and they still remember the person,
All right.
it's you know what I mean in that instance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they will remember and they will feel the loss.
That's right. And so when you block it, it's hard for them. So that's why you want to make sure they still can talk about it. And you still mention that person throughout. I mean, we still mention the people who have passed in our lives.
Hmm.
We still mention them. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
it's still funny things that had happened when they were with us or
Right. Right.
something.
Yeah.
We still bring that up.
Okay. So it's something like remembering them fondly. I mean, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And also, sometimes not. My father was always a grouchy grouch. I used to call him a grouchy grouch
Okay.
because he
Okay.
was because he was he was older, so he sometimes was grouchy, and
Right.
I
Right.
would say that, and the boys would just laugh because that is true, and they do
Hmm.
that. They love their grandfather, but
Uh-huh.
sometimes he was grouchy.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So, Monica, you may have said all you need to say, but are there any additional last words of wisdom you'd like to share, maybe to inspire listeners?
Well, to inspire listeners, I just wanted to say one thing is that if
Hmm.
this is something that you feel that you want to introduce to your child, this is an excellent book for you to do that with.
All right.
I also think that again with kids, you have to remember that they are going to remember the person,
Hmm.
and they are going to hold memories, and they are going to have feelings about it. So you don't want to block that. Because I think
Hmm.
blocking it is worse than just talking about it. Even if it hurts you to talk
Right.
about it, you want to continue to talk about that person.
Right. Okay. Okay. Got that. So those cool words right there. So in closing, oh yeah, hang on. By the way, we spoke of Speedy Strength 3 years ago, and you mentioned maybe you might be writing out some sequels or prequels. Is that still
I
on
actually,
the table?
yes, I have two. I
All
had to,
right.
yeah. So I had to get this one out, and I have another one with Speedy. I just finished it up, and I have some. It's already illustrated and everything. So I'm
Oh,
going to give this one a
nice.
little time. Then I'm going to bring my next Speedy book out because Speedy's, he's changed a little bit in my
Uh-huh.
mind. He's
Right.
grown
Right.
because of the environment he's now in. So
Right.
in this new one, he changed in one, and well, I had two. I actually was writing one, and it became two.
Okay. Okay.
So so it is that one's coming out next. I hopefully on October I'll bring that one out or before. And then
Hmm.
I have two more books with Speedy,
Right.
and I'm going to be doing some more with this one. And then I have some other books that are not um in the kid arena that I want to do. It's
Hmm.
another book I started on too. It's called Appreciating the Micro Blessings in Life.
Hmm.
So I'm writing that too. So I have a lot of things I'm writing. I just got to get them out.
All right. And yeah, it looks like you're pretty busy with all those projects. So good luck with all of those. Way to
Thank
go.
you.
All right, cool. Okay. So in closing then, the book is Candma Goes to Heaven. The author's our guest, Monica Burch, and you can find her book on Amazon. So Monica, thank you very much for being on Author Story again. It was really fun to speak with you second time, third time around.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So everyone, check out Canma Goes to Heaven, and also be sure to subscribe to our channel to check out the fantastic authors and books we've already covered, as well as the ones we'll speak about in the future. So see you guys all next time on Author Story, where we speak to another awesome author about another awesome book.